GNS, he was heading the other direction.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the March Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee meeting to order. First item of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting. I'll call on Vice Chairman Commissioner Gooch.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Phew, that was close. Next, we need to announce 4 vacancies on the Equalization Board. Those vacancies being Tim Rudd, David Adams, Edmund Deslate, and James Baker. Next, oh, this isn't the revised version. We also need to announce a vacancy of the school board to fill the unexpired term of Helen Blankenship to expire of August 2016. Those she represented Commission Districts 4, 6, and 7. So that vacancy, both of these vacancies will be announced Thursday at our commission meeting, and then we will recommend for appointment at our next steering meeting in April. Commissioner Jordan.
Just to make sure that we're all clear, this is not really her unexpired term, although it says so right here. As I understand it, this is until August. So, right?
That is a
Okay.
good point. Yes,
And
that is correct.
I expect to be corrected again if necessary here, but if a person wants to run for that position, whether they apply for this roughly 6-month appointment or not, if a person wants to run for the position in August, they have to qualify for that position by April 3. I believe that's correct, Mr. Mayor, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to say that at the commission meeting on Thursday too, so that everybody's on the same page.
Will these people need to be sure and go over there and make sure they live in the district as well, like we did on the previous one?
Absolutely.
Did they turn it in here, to Vicky first?
Yeah, they will turn in their applications for this term for the next 6 months. And then first thing we did is we asked them to confirm they were in the proper district. So the election commission will do that.
Okay.
So when we get applications, we'll send you the application with the confirmation of their proper residence.
And again, just for information only for any candidate out there, don't need to wait till April 3rd, because you got to have papers filled out, signed, etc. And some people, much to my surprise, do not know that. 25 voters have got to sign it and so forth, so, okay.
To run.
To run,
Yes.
to run,
Yes,
right.
Yes. Well, a question on that too, will the school board be in any way, form, or fashion be sending a recommendation or no?
I don't believe so.
They
Okay.
didn't the last time.
Okay. I was just wondering about that, so, okay.
Guess we can go ahead and discuss this now. I don't remember if we discussed this at this meeting or the actual meeting where we made the recommendation, but I think last time we said on the outset that this committee would recommend no more than 3 applicants to the full commission. Doesn't mean we will recommend 3, but no more than 3. I believe that's what we said.
We said 3 or less, didn't we?
Right.
Okay.
Preferably 1.
Yeah, preferably 1,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But, as we've talked about before, and it's muddied the water some, somebody could come up on the floor too that hasn't come before this committee, which we'd
But they would have to be nominated.
We'd rather for it to come through here, but we'd be sending a nomination through this committee.
But they would have to be nominated from the floor of the commission.
Right.
not just-
Right.
And I think it's proper for us to say something, I think I said this the last time too, though, that although it's not necessary, if a person is going to apply for this appointment, it sure would be nice if they turned it in and we had that paperwork maybe in the office a few days before April 7th, which is, so we could have a chance to get it by email and look at it rather than right here the first time. But we're going to do this on the 7th, is that correct? That's
Yes.
our next steering meeting, so we're gonna nominate and send 1 or 2 or 3 to the full commission, which will be just a few days later.
Yes, sir.
Let me get
Okay.
let me get something clear in my mind. So the person that's gonna run has got to have their names in a petition turned in by April 3rd. We're gonna be approving, or not, recommending somebody for April the 7th. So they're gonna know who's actually, before we actually recommend somebody, they're gonna know who the candidates are that's gonna be running prior.
Maybe, I mean, if they decide, if they're not wanting to run in August, they could still try to get this temporary time, I guess, couldn't it?
You could.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know why
If
they
I'm
would,
not
but I'm just
mistaken, I
saying
believe
they
Mr.
could.
Eeks is
Yeah.
doing that, right? I mean, he's just serving through this term, his term, but yeah, you're right, that could be done. All right. Next item, TCRS retirement plan discussion. Sonia, if you want to come on up. And Mayor, oh, you're already here. There you go. For county general full-time employees and school board classified full-time employees.
Okay. Thank you for letting me come tonight. Last year during the budget process, it was mentioned, we talked about benefits and pay and other things that were related to the employee. And it was mentioned at that time that it would be useful if I did some research and brought back to the commission during the process this year, information to look at our pension, to determine if it's the right plan for us as it is today, the programs that we have set in place. Are there any other options that would offer a cost savings but would still provide a benefit to the employee, or what other options are available? So that's what this is about tonight, is at the request of this body last year during the same time. Also in here, there's going to be some facts and figures, and this is based on information that we have as of today. You know, if something changed, TCRS sent us some new information or something changed, it would change these numbers, but just know that based on the information and the data that we have today, this is what it would look like, okay? Just to give you a little background about TCRS, it's ran by the Tennessee Department of the Treasury. David H. Lillard is the treasurer. And I know that there's a lot of conversation that's been going on across the country, not just in Tennessee, Rutherford County, but also throughout the United States, where people have been concerned about pension plans, their sustainability. There's been some concerns that you hear where people are saying their communities can't afford it any longer, they're filing bankruptcy. And so it's caused some stir that's not really happening in the state of Tennessee. TCRS is very well ran and managed. TCRS itself was established in 1972. However, the state of Tennessee had a pension plan back in the 60s. They just went to this more unified plan in 72. The Pew Center ranked them as a solid performer. There's only 10 other states that has that ranking. Moody's ranks them as a AAA. That's the highest ranking available. They have a stable outlook. Fitch ranks them as a AAA. Standard & Poor's AA+. Money Management Intelligence gave them an award in March of last year and recognized them as the large public plan of the year. And that's a pretty big accomplishment when you look at pension plans. They've also received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the GFOA. And the Public Pension Coordinating Council gave TCRS the Public Pension Standards Award for Funding and Administration in 2013. Currently, the plan administers for 487 political subdivisions across the state of Tennessee and has a little over 200,000 members and approximately 122.5 beneficiaries. The assets are $38 billion, which means that's what they have in place to fund these future benefits. They have a projected investment return of 7.5%. And one of the things that precipitated us looking at this is in 2009, when the market became a little unstable and we had some issues going on in our economy, we didn't have the same rates of returns. We were having less than 7.5, and in order to maintain the assets and the funds in there, they're projecting at a 7.5% return. Well, for the fiscal year end 2013, it balanced out at 9.9 for 2013, and their investments this year have done really well. It's already really gone beyond that. So as far as the investments and this meeting their projections, we're online for that. It provides $1.63 billion in payroll to Tennessee residents, and I think when we look at the pension, one of the things that's important for us to remember is that yes, it is a benefit that we pay for our employees, but these pension benefits also helps sustain our economy. Without a pension, these are people who buy homes, pay rent, buy at the grocery store, Target, and the malls, and things that we need to continue to sustain our county. So that's an important thing to know, that that's going back into the community. The TCRS is 92.1% funded. Which is a very high funding ratio. A lot of the pensions that we're struggling, we're at 50% or below, and we're at 92.1 for the aggregate, which means all their funds combined. Some of the funds are even up to 97, 98%, which is a really unheard of amount. The TCRS investment division also includes 14 chartered financial analysts. This is the highest professional financial position that you can have as far as analyst goes, and these people really know their stuff. That's why the investments have done so well. So I wanted to give you a background on that, just so that you understand what that it looks like for them. This is the investment cycle. I just talked about the 7.5%. Take my finger off the button. Rate of return, and it looks like over the years from 97 to 2012, and it shows the investments, how they've gone up and down. You see 2011, the investment rate of return was at 19.6, but then it dropped in 2012. And that's when you see in 2009 it has the big drop, and it went to minus 15%. Their investments, just like everybody else's personal investments they had, they took a loss, and so they had to recover that, and they have been doing quite well on putting that back in place. So when we look at this, where are we at today? Currently, the cost for the current pension for county general, which county and general, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, says county general employees, highway, and board of,
I think not, but when I
gave you that, that's just for county general period,
Just
okay.
county general.
Just county general, period is 5.3 million, and the Board of Ed as a whole is 16.7 million, is annually funded by the county on behalf of the employees. If investments do not have a 7.5% rate of return or greater, then the current plan could be costly. And it will be, it could be, because they do an actuarial evaluation every 2 years. So every 2 years, we get a new rate, and it goes up and it goes down, based on that rate and based on how the fund performs. If any changes are made, and I wanted to preface by saying that we're not bringing this forward because we're saying that the pension needs to be changed. I'm just bringing it forward to information in the event that you think that that's something that needs to happen. But anything that does, we need to ensure that there's something in place, a viable plan that works for the employee in the community as well. What would cause the pension liability to increase? An increase in employee population. As our county grows and we need more and more services, I think there was some projection that we're supposed to double in size by the year, what year was that? 2030. Okay, you double in size, you're gonna have to have more services, more paramedics, more police officers, those things to provide for a county of this size. You can't grow a county and not grow in other aspects. It's gotta have a balance in there. So employee population will increase the liability. Investment losses, we just talked about that. 7.5 is the rate they're looking for. If it's 5.6, there's a loss. That's going to increase your rate. Lifespan surpasses projections. When they do the actuarial studies, they do it based on 60 years of age. And then they look at your population and they say, if anybody's over the age of 60, between 60 and 65, then they project them to live to this age. If they're under 60, they project them to live to this age. So when they do the actuarial studies, they look at our population to say, what is the age of our population now? How close are they to retirement? Are they vested in those type things? And then actuarial assumptions, they have losses. They don't project them properly based on the employee population. So those are some of the things that can cause a liability to change. Potential increased costs, as I said before, every 2 years they do a new rate structure. So it could go up or it could go down. When we started we have gone from 7.46 in 1995 to our current rate today, which is 12.69. The Board of Ed teacher and certified rate has gone from 6.5 to 8.88, but their full rate is 13.88 because currently the teachers and certified group at the Board of Ed pay 5% towards their retirement. The Board of Ed classified is the same as the county general, and they don't pay anything towards their rate. Liability and risk, one of the.
Let me ask you a question on
Sure.
that there.
Mhm.
At one time, and I apologize for interrupting your,
You're fine.
if I don't ask this, I forget it. At one time, the teachers actually talked about getting out of the system if we changed it. Do you remember anything about that?
That was with healthcare.
Was that-
That wasn't with their pension. They had the option at the time that if we changed the health benefits, the premiums and the rates on it, that they could go to the state plan to
Okay,
be on the
okay.
insurance premiums. But on TCRS, they're considered in the grouping with the state employees, and it's not an opt-in or opt-out feature.
Okay.
Now, I mean, if they don't want to draw their pension, I don't guess they have to,
Well, I
but.
mean, I knew there was something that they could change, and
Yeah,
since you said
it's
it
the
wasn't
health
healthcare.
insurance, mhm.
Okay.
Under the liability and risk, one of the things that you associate with a fund is you want to make sure that it's a really healthy fund, because if it's not, it affects our credit ratings. The state's credit ratings and the county's based on what we
Yeah,
fund.
they're looking at it because of this accounting standard.
Right. And I'm gonna apologize, because if I get to coughing, I'm sorry. So Moody's has proposed giving more weight to pension liabilities and other long-term debts in its scorecard. And they stated that the debt burden trends are an indicator of a population's capacity to absorb the obligations, tax dollars, that's the obligation. And beginning in fiscal year 2015, GASB will require the state and local governments to include the net pension liability as an entry in their liability section of their financial statements. So this is something that's going to be happening, and it's going to be on those statements in order for, us to be aware of what it's costing us and the future cost will be. So, public trust, payouts and benefits impact on the tax rate. Everything that we do is a cost of running county government. I mean, it's all an expense that what we do, every service that we provide, the employees that are here. And so we have to be mindful of how that impacts the tax rate. We want to make sure that anything that we do is fiscally sustainable, that it's something that we're doing the right thing for all concerned, for the employees as well as the taxpayers. And that also we're looking at the liabilities of future generations, knowing that we want to make sure that this county is around for a long time and it's financially stable and those type things. So those are the demographics of the full-time employees in county general only. And I did this because I don't have all the Board of Ed data, but currently there's 989 active full-time employees. With this, 579 of the employees have less than 10 years of service. So that tells you that about 400 of them have more. 28 have 30 years of service or more. 186 are 55 years of age or older. And the reason that's important is because under our pension plan, employees can retire at 55. So when you look at, you've got the 186 that are 55 or older, and you've got 28 that have 30 years of service, you're looking at a little over 200 of our population that could retire today.
But to retire at 55, don't you have to have 30 years of service?
Yes.
No.
On the state
Early
retirement?
retirement.
Well, there is a early retirement option.
You take a cut, but you could retire at 55.
That is true.
It's not full
a day.
retirement.
You get a day.
But you don't get your full benefit.
You don't
Correct.
get the full benefit.
But you could.
Unless you.
Right. Anyway, so the average age of our active full-time population is 44. The average years of service of active full-time population is 10. So when you do all of them, the average is 10, which tells you that that higher group, that 400's got a lot of years, because that brings your average up higher. The average salary of the active full-time is $32,825, which means under the current plan, they would draw $1,292 per month if they were drawing today. And that's not take-home, that's pre-tax, that's not post-tax. So the average draw for all county retirees currently that are drawing with TCRS is $1,287. And the average age of all current county retirees is 70. So just so you know that. Now we're going to get into the part that's a little bit hard for me to explain, and I've tried my best to simplify this. There are different types of retirement options for all people, okay? There's whatever you put into your savings account, your checking account every month to offset it. There is a deferred compensation, which is an IRA, a 457, those type, not 457, a 401k, those type things. Those are things that you can do through a financial advisor, go out to marketing at those. But there are also that you can do through an employer, a defined benefit and a defined contribution. The defined benefit is our pension. That is TCRS. It is something that is defined. There's a certain amount of money going into it. There are certain criteria that you have to meet in order to draw it. And if you don't meet that criteria, you don't draw it, and the money stay in there for future retirees. It's reinvested, those type things. Under a defined contribution, it's can be a partnership, and I'm going to read it just because I'm afraid I'll say you the wrong thing. Under the defined benefit, it's a plan that pays a specific amount of money either per month or in a lump sum. Somebody could cash out their entire pension in a lump sum if they wanted to and invest it, but they would not have a monthly check at the end. When you become eligible for retirement benefits, these plans usually have formulas to determine how much you receive in benefits based on criteria such as how long you've worked for the organization and what your salary is. This takes the mystery out of retirement planning for the employee. Generally, the employer pays the complete cost of a defined benefit plan. Governments usually have defined benefit pensions as one of its benefits to offset its salaries. Everything that I looked said that that was something that most governmental entities, state, federal, local, cities, that's one of the things that they do is to offset that. Under a defined contribution, this is a plan that does not pay a specific amount of money when you retire, but allows you to save money in a tax-deferred account. It's kind of like the market with your investments now. Whatever's invested, if the market's good, you might have really good money. If the market's not so good, you're not going to have so much. A 401k is a common type of defined contribution plan. At retirement, you withdraw this money over time for living expenses. It's not a monthly check. I guess you could set it up with whoever your broker is to do that and get a monthly check from them, but it's typically set aside for a large medical expense, take a vacation, pay for some of those higher expenses that hadn't planned on outside of your pension. An employer usually contributes to a defined contribution plan also, either in the form of a match of some portion of your contributions or a fixed amount. A defined contribution plan does not guarantee to have any particular value. It could be $0 or it could be $1 million. Just depends on what's put in there and how it performs. And it may gain or lose value depending on investment performance. Most defined contributions are considered supplemental retirement plans to offset the difference of your current salary versus your pension and Social Security. What most people don't know is retirement is like a three-legged stool, and you'll hear this in all the financial world. A person, in order to get your if most people say, okay, I'm going to retire and I'm going to need to draw what I'm making today in order to live, okay? So I need that for my house payment, car payment, and if you're late in life parent like me, kids in college. So it's a three-legged stool. One part of the stool is Social Security. You work all these years, you pay into Social Security with the hope that when you get of age, you're going to get to draw Social Security. The other part is the pension. That's the other leg. That's something that's put in that helps to offset. And the last part is whatever you, the employee, does in a supplemental retirement to offset. Because none of the three independently will make up your salary it is today. So if an employee needs what they're making today, they've got to plan for that on knowing this is how much I'm going to get on Social Security, this is how I'm going to get on my pension, and this is what I've got to do myself to offset it. So I wanted to explain that because most people don't understand, and I have employees in the county come to me who didn't understand the supplemental, and they're thinking that their Social Security and their retirement's going to be their check, and it's not. So I wanted to make sure that other people understood that it's a three-legged stool. It's you know, it takes your Social Security, your pension, and whatever you do to make the combined. The current plan for the county and county general and board of ed classified today is a defined benefit. We have a pension multiplier of 1.5, and you'll see this again. It's 1.5 times the years of service and your average final compensation. What TCRS does is takes your 5 highest years, not your last 5 years, not your first 5, not your 5 highest throughout your career, your 5 highest consecutive years. So they take, you know, if somewhere in your career, you were the head honcho and you said, I don't want the stress, I just want to, you know, do this. I want to be a good employee and somebody else can do that now. That's okay. It will take those 5 highest years, okay? And then we have plus a benefit improvement of 5%. Retirement is age 60 with a minimum of 5 years of service, or after 30 years of service, any age. So we have some people that came to work here 18, 19, 20 years old. They're 50 years old, got 30 years of service. Guess what? They're fully vested, you know, so they're retirement ready at 50. Early retirement is available with a reduction at age 55 or after 25 years of service. You have to be vested with 5 years for the age though. Annual cost of living adjustment is a 3% cap. This is based on the Consumer Price Index. The state does this every year for all of the state employees and also does it for the pension. Our current contribution rate is 12.69% for the County General and Board of Ed classified, and 8.88% for Board of Ed teachers and Board of Ed certified of their total full-time salaries. And of course, I mentioned earlier that the Board of Ed certified and teachers pay their 5%. Vesting is after 5 years of service currently. Do y'all have any do y'all have any questions? I know this is a lot to take in. I couldn't get this, I tried my best to get it less with more.
I want to make sure I understand when you say the rate, contribution rate, say in this case 12.69, that's what the employer, that percent is what the employer is paying
Percent of
in their
salary.
It's a percent of salary. For full-time.
for full-time in that year. So part-time, there's no pension.
No pension. And some entities, of course, some entities allow a pension for any employees that work 30 hours or more, but ours are full-time. So.
And
they
what's
have to be,
full-time?
37.5 to 40. So you may want to know what other entities are doing right now. State of Tennessee is adopting a hybrid plan, which is part defined benefit, part defined contribution for their the higher education employees, the teachers, some of the state employees as well. That's going to be effective July 1, 2014. The defined benefit has a 5 years vesting, but the defined contribution is an immediate vesting, and I'll explain what that means in a few minutes, because that's a whole nother piece. Full-time Board of Ed certified employees hired after July 1, 2014 will be on the state plan because the certified and the teachers are under the state plan already. City of Murfreesboro has 2 defined contribution plans with a 5 years cliff vesting, and they do matching based on what the employee puts in. Yes.
So if the state goes ahead and does it, and some of the Board of Education employees will automatically be on it?
Yes.
Some of them will.
So all we got?
The certified.
Teachers,
Teachers, and then there's
certified.
some Board of Ed staff are on our
So what does that do? What does that make our county general? How many employees does that bring it down from the 900 something?
Well, that 900 number that I gave you is county general only. So it doesn't even include the certified and classified. I was trying to give you a snapshot of data that I had available to me.
But maybe Jeff, how many certified teachers we've got?
How many,
Classified.
Right about 3,000 teachers, and I don't know a full-time number on classified.
But the 3,000 teachers will go to the new plan.
No, only new hires.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
What about those that aren't vested?
yeah.
Those that are not
This is the-
vested,
Stay on.
stay, if they have got, if they've started under this plan, they'll stay on this plan.
Okay.
But just right, it's, again, it's not, what happens July 1 is for new
hires only.
hires
only, yeah.
only,
Yeah.
and new hires who don't have any service with TCRS.
Currently.
So a teacher who might be in Lincoln County for 2 years, coming into Rutherford County, they're in the old plan, not the new plan.
If they've ever started under the plan that we're on today, from now until June 30th, if they start with any entity that's under TCRS, they're under the current plan as it exists today. If they work 1 year for that entity and leave and go to Florida to live for 5 years, and they come back and then start teaching for us again, they pick up under the old plan because they started under the old plan. Whatever plan they start in is,
And,
that's what they finish under.
yeah, that is the essence of it. There are a couple of circumstances under which a teacher could wind up in the hybrid plan who left, but it should be rare.
Rare, right.
What about a regular county employee, not a teacher? If they left and say we're gone a year, come back to another agency that had TCRS or the same agency, would they fall back under the old plan or?
Well, it depends on if this body decides to do anything to our existing plan. If they do nothing, if they say, we've got a great plan, it's financially sustainable, it's fiscally sound, and we do nothing, then you're right where you are today. You leave, you come back, and the time continues.
But I think too, if they do make a change,
And they come back, you're still on the old plan.
You're still on the
Yeah,
plan.
right.
And that brings me to my question. How's this, if we do this, how's this gonna affect the existing plan?
Nothing.
nothing.
Now, it's gonna have to, because you're not gonna be having the same amount of dollars coming into the plan.
No.
Because other employees are actually, the new employees are not.
Okay, I see
It's
what you're
gonna affect
saying. You're saying dollars going in and dollars invested in that.
There's gonna be dollars that's not coming into the plan that would be coming into the plan.
But you
So-
also don't have people coming into the plan either.
What's it gonna cost the county is what he's saying. The people coming in, are they gonna cost as much?
Well, Sonia will get to that.
I'll get to that. I've got some
She-
numbers
she's
in
got
here.
a good slide on
Okay.
that.
She's
And if
gonna
it
get-
doesn't answer your question, after you see these next couple of slides, then we'll revisit, say, no, that's not what I was asking.
Okay.
So this, I said the City of Murfreesboro. The City of Murfreesboro Board of Ed, teachers and certified, will follow the state plan like the rest. The Board of Ed classified employees, the City of Murfreesboro Board of Ed classified, Board of Ed classified, are on the legacy plan that we're on with no employee contribution. So they're just like the county is right now. And to my knowledge, I haven't heard them talking about it.
Board of Education classified on legacy plan with them. I don't,
That's true, because I've got it right here.
all right.
The town of Smyrna has a defined contribution plan with a 5-year graded vesting schedule. I'll explain what graded vesting and all that means in a minute. And the city of Laverne has a defined contribution plan with immediate vesting. One of the things that I also looked at is when we were doing our salary survey and we did our analysis for our pay plan that we're in place right now, we looked at several entities and we used Montgomery County, Sumner County, Williamson County as our analysis in the city of Franklin, city of Clarksville, city of Murfreesboro, and all that. So I wanted to give you an idea too, because if we're looking at the pay structure being the same, what does the benefit structure look like for those same entities? Montgomery County, Sumner County, Wilson County, city of Hendersonville, Hamilton County, city of Clarksville are all on the legacy plan that we're on with no contribution rate. They're on the exact same plan that we're on today. Williamson County is on the legacy plan, but they require 5% employee contribution. And the city of Franklin has a city finance defined benefit for their
They have
employees.
their own plan.
Yeah, they have their own plan.
How's the pay plan versus, are they paying their employees more money? Even though they're on a defined,
Some are, yes. Because, you know,
So
if
they're
we look
paying-
at a balance and an average of those entities as a whole, yes. But yes, some are, I mean,
so they're
Some
paying them,
positions.
they're paying them more money in a pay grade because, but they don't have the same, retirement plan that we've got. Right?
everybody that I just named has the same plan we have.
But what I'm
The
asking is,
counties.
what I'm asking,
Except Williamson County is requiring
Pays
a
the
5%
5%,
contribution.
right.
right, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne, for example, a lot of their pay scales are higher than what
That
ours
is correct.
Our pay plan.
That is correct.
But
But they've got a different retirement. What ours is, our pay plan is lower with a
To
different.
offset with the retirement.
To offset the cost of, we're not paying them.
Right.
the pay plan that these others are.
And that's one of the arguments, as I understand, that has been in this county for years way before me, that to offset the pay, we had good benefits, so that there was a balance. And that's what I've understood. I don't know, I haven't lived it, but
I've been
some
here
of you
20
that's been
years.
around could tell me.
That's a
right.
true statement.
Okay, so, now we get into the types of vesting. This is where it gets really fun.
Types of vesting, only to define
Defined
contribution.
contribution, yeah, the vesting schedule for defined benefit is TCRS. The only vesting is a cliff vesting at 5 or 10 years, period. There's no, you can't pick any other time frame. It can't be 7, can't be 3, can't be 12, it's 5 or 10. Under the defined contribution, which is the one where there's no guaranteed later, there's no guaranteed paycheck at the, it's not a set amount.
The risk is with the employee.
Employee, the employee, yes, the sense of risk, that's a good way to put it, is the graded vesting. And what that means is after, they do it on a 5-year schedule, but the first year that you complete a full year, you get 20% of your pension.
20% of what the government contributes.
Correct. Right. Second year, you get 40%. Third year, you get 60%, and so on, till after the 5th year, it's 100%. And what that means is if the employee leaves, they go to work for you, and this is how the town of Smyrna has got their set up. If you go to work for the town of Smyrna and you work there for a year, currently, the city puts in money in a defined contribution for you, and the employee puts money in a defined contribution. I worked there 1 year, and I don't want to work there anymore. I found a better opportunity. My spouse got transferred. I want to move to a tropical island, whatever my reason being. And I leave. I get all, because I'm the employee and I put money in, I get all of what I put in. That's transferable. It goes with me wherever I go. But the 20%, the money that the city has put in for me, the town of Smyrna put in for me, I only get 20% of that. So if they put in $1,000, I get 200 of it
At what point?
when I leave.
Okay.
Okay? And so at the onset, that sounds like a good thing. It definitely for what the employee puts in, and it's the same with TCRS. If an employee contributes, that's their money to take. So the teachers who contribute 5%, that's their money. I mean, nobody's going to keep that from them. But what the county puts in on their behalf is still the county's money. The one part of the graded vesting and the defined contribution is really appealing to some people, and the reason why is because if I work there a year, I leave and I take my money and I go on. And that is true. But the other part of it is it doesn't leave money in there to invest for future times. So part of the reason why we get a good rate is because the money, if they don't meet their 5-year vesting and they leave after a year, well, the money that the county has put in on their behalf, that 12.69%, is that what it is right now? 12 point.
Are you talking about defined contribution?
I'm talking about a defined benefit. What's our rate right now? 12.69, right?
12.69.
So right now, under the defined benefit, we put in 12.69 for an employee. That employee doesn't meet the vesting and they leave after a year, the money that we put in for that employee is invested and continues to grow for future retirees.
And that's what it's looked at every 2 years. All the assets, monies that we put in, plus our population and our people who leave, and investments, what has occurred, they look at and reset every 2 years with assumptions, and what you were saying, assumptions of those assets that are in there is going to grow at 7.5. So I'll talk.
And then immediate vesting means I work here for 6 months and I can't stand anymore. I'm leaving. I'm taking everything you gave me and my money too. Now that might be appealing. I mean, on one part, if I'm an employee who changes jobs every year, that's a gravy train for me. I'm going to, get it both. But if I'm looking at maintaining a fund for long-term for employees who stay around and are, dedicated and loyal, I don't know that that's necessarily the right plan. That's my opinion. Just mine.
Sonia, Commissioner Schaefer did bring up a result. Even in that person who left a year, 20%, you still have the risk of what those investments have done.
That's true. Yeah.
You could lose it.
Yeah, you could still lose that, right?
The 20% might not be a full 20%.
It might not be the $200. It could be more, or it could be zero. So, options that Rutherford County could consider, And I'm gonna show you another plan. This is everything that's on there. I'm gonna show you a grid that's a little bit more digestible than this. But these are all the different options that when you look at what could we possibly do, there's several. So I'm gonna go, I think it's on the next slide. Here's the slide before. This is everything in a graph. So currently, the county is under option 1. We're under the legacy plan. We have a multiplier of 1.5. Our full retirement age is age 60 or 30 years of service. Employee contribution, what we currently have is 0% for the county and 5% for the Board of Ed teachers and certified. Our cost of living is between 0 and 3%, max of 3% based on the Consumer Price Index. It usually, I haven't seen that it be 0. It's been 1.6, I think is the lowest, and I haven't even seen it go up to a max of 3. Benefit improvement of 5%. The total employer contribution at this point is 12.69 for the County General and Board of Ed, classified, and 8.88 for the Board of Ed teachers and certified, and we have a 5-year vesting. Option 2,
Okay, does everybody understand what that annual service multiplier is? Is that if I have 30 years of service times 1.5, it's 45% then of my highest consecutive 60 months. And then after that's calculated, it's an increase of 5%.
I know the city of Murfreesboro is 2%.
A 2% multiplier.
2% of each year, if you got 30 years, it's 60% of your highest 5.
Which that's a whole lot more generous than what TCRS is.
Right.
On that 5 consecutive years, is that an average of those years or the
Is
high?
that average of that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
and it's actually, they put 5 years on everything, but it's actually average the highest 60 months consecutive. They look at 60 months.
And what's that 5%, what's the benefit improvement?
That's just something
Adopted?
it's just something they adopted. After they calculate everything, they give you an extra 5%. That's-
Isn't that tied to the Social Security? If you get, before your Social Security kicks in, you get that, after that it drops?
No, that's not Social Security leveling.
Okay.
Is that what you were talking about,
Yes,
Social
ma'am.
Security leveling? Option 2 is an option that's available to us now, and it's an alternate defined benefit. It has a multiplier of 1.4. The full retirement goes to age 65 or rule of 90. What that means is your years of service and your age have to equal 90 in order to retire with full service. Yeah, age 65 or rule of 90. So if you get 65, you can retire, but where I was talking about the analogy, where I had said the analogy earlier of somebody came to work for us when they were 20 and they worked 30 years and now they're 50. 50 and 20 is going to equal 70. They're not going to be to their rule of 90. But they'll have, so, just, they'd have to go to 65 to do that. Employee contribution rates, it could be 0%, 2.5%, or 5%.
I could go to 60. If you're.
There's a reduced benefit. I've got that
No,
on
no,
there.
what I'm saying is that somebody who is 20, right out of school, and they work 30, they're now 50, right? They're at 80.
So they
to
still got
get-
10 years.
Which really, no, they've got 10,
what I
which
said,
they only
10.
have to work 5 years. They will be 5 years older and
5
have
years of
5 years of
service. Yeah,
service.
that's true.
So you're only talking 5 more years.
The one they have to do that. So, anyway. Employee contribution rates could be 0%, 2.5%, or 5%. Cost of living could be up to 3% max. Benefit improvement, there's no benefit improvement on the defined the alternate defined. If we decided we wanted this option, our rate would be 5.8%, the county portion, and the employee portion would be 2.5%. And we could do a 5 or 10-year vesting schedule. The next is option 3A, it's TCRS hybrid. This is something they put out in 2012. It has a 1% multiplier. Again, age 65 or rule of 90. Employee contribution of 0, 2.5, or 5 on the defined benefit. And where the hybrid comes in is, this one is part defined benefit, part defined contribution. That's why it's hybrid, it's a bit of both. And up to 5% on the DC. So an employee could, based with the options that TCRS put out there, contribute up to 10% towards their retirement on this. Cost of living, 0 to 3%. Benefit improvement, 0. Employer contribution on the defined benefit piece with 3.5, and the max of 7% on the DC. So the two combined could equal 10.5% for the county. 5 years on the DB would be the vesting for this one. That was the only thing they offered for that, and immediate vesting on the defined contribution piece. The plan that TCRS is going forward with for the teachers and state employees is the hybrid 2014 version. It's 1% service multiplier, age 65, rule of 90. Employee contributes 5% on the defined benefit and 2% on the defined contribution, but the employee may opt out. So if the employee says, I don't want to put 2% in the defined contribution, they don't have to. They can opt out of it. But the state will still put in 5%. Cost of living, 3% max. No benefit improvement. The employer contribution will be 4% on the defined benefit and 5% on the defined contribution. 5-year vesting on the defined benefit and immediate on defined contribution. The last option is a straight defined contribution plan. There's no multiplier. It could be age 65 or rule of 90, but you could change what your retirement ages need to be. Some of them say 60, and I don't know what the city of Murfreesboro, but there's different ages.
Well, it really doesn't
so-
matter if you have immediate vesting.
Yeah, because you could just do whatever.
Just go.
Yeah, just go. Employee contribution, 6% max. Cost of living, none. Benefit improvement, none. Total employer contribution, 6%, and a vesting is immediate on this. So those are some options. I mean, there's lots of options within the option for each of these plans that they've given us.
That's all, or what the state came up with is all we can do.
If we're gonna stay in TCRS.
Oh, okay.
Sonia, on
The one
tape-
that's not, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Go ahead.
The one that's not TCRS is the straight defined contribution. I mean,
But
we.
it's 6% both ways. It's gotta be, it can't be 5% and.
Well, I mean, you could do whatever.
Actually, you could do
Whatever you
whatever.
want.
Percentage.
You wanna give
But-
10%.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Well, they
you
don't-
decide.
You could do
They
a
don't-
half
they don't
percent,
say that, though.
10%.
Yeah.
To get them to put more.
Well, it says max. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted on a defined contribution. You create your own plan. And you could have multiples. The city of Murfreesboro has 2 defined contributions, and they'll do matching on both. One of their defined contributions is a straight, as I understand it. One of them is they say we're gonna put in, and I'm just gonna throw a number out there because I can't remember. They may say we're gonna put 4% in this defined contribution and the employee's gonna put in, 4%. But they have another defined contribution that says, hey, if the employee puts in 5% in this one, we'll put in 2.5. We'll put in 50% matching or something. There's some other things that you can do. But when you get into doing that, you have to have somebody who is a financial person that manages that fund for you. So, hey, I'm sorry.
Isn't it true that with regard to the hybrid plans and those amounts that the county would put in on a defined contribution, that could be suspended from year to year?
You can,
It's
in their
not.
rules.
In other words, that, that, if you left it just like that, you would get what they say you would get, but the county could, if they wanted to, for that year, suspend it, so then the employee's gonna get less in the end.
Right. They put a disclaimer in there, and what he's speaking of, they put a disclaimer in their plan that says they have the right to modify, suspend, and that's what he's speaking of.
The reason, they put some caveats in there, if
Liability
something
controls.
horrible happens, they've got some fail-safe things that they can do to this plan that's already approved.
Right. And what he's speaking of is the, it says in here, utilize the funds in the actuarial stabilization account, which means they could use the funds that are already in there to stabilize
Yeah, but-
the rate. They can reduce or suspend the maximum 3% COLA. They can shift some or all of the DC employer contribution to the DB plan, which under the DC plan, it's immediate vesting, you take it with you. So if they quit contributing to your DC plan, guess what? when you get to immediate vesting, it's not gonna matter because they didn't put any in there.
Is there anything in there that defines horrific conditions
No.
or,
Well,
Well,
wait a
it may
minute.
be in
Yeah,
the-
It is.
um,
It is. It's not in here, but it had to do with the liability, the debt of the state. That was one. There was some benchmarks they had that if this
I just wanna
happened.
make sure that, I mean, I understand that there's definitions in there of horrific, instead of just saying, well, I just had a bad day, and it's gonna be, we're gonna take it. Which is
It was,
probably not going,
Well, the one that is off the head is the debt of the state. Like,
Okay.
if there was tornadoes that trashed all of Tennessee, and there was gonna have to be rebuilding, and we're gonna have to acquire debt of the
Catastrophic
state
event.
to rebuild universities and whatever.
I
That's
just,
what
I
I'm
just wanted to
saying.
make sure and see what that, the definition of horrific
Yeah, I don't
would
think
be.
it says there, but there are stresses.
anytime, and again, this is just me speaking, I'm not, nobody, anytime you have the DC plan, that is something based on the amount of money that's put in there, the employee assumes all the responsibility, all. As far as whether or not it's invested in the right funds for growth, they can go into a straight plan, but there's gonna be administrative fees that go along with, you can choose which plan you wanna go into, and some employees may say, well, I don't wanna have to pay those administrative fees, I wanna get in there. Well, if nobody's monitoring your account and you're just putting it into the same account and it's not a good fund, then it's not gonna grow. You know, so there's some things that with the defined benefit, it's a more secure plan for your future retirees.
Says up here, an annual actuarial valuation establishes the employer contribution rate and unfunded liabilities. Again, if the defined benefit component employer cost exceeds 4% of the payroll, or if the target unfunded liabilities are exceeded for the DB component plan, the following adjustments will automatically occur in the following sequence. So it starts right
Tells you
there.
what it's gonna do.
The first one is utilize funds in the actuarial stabilization account. And when you go up in here, there are monies that are going into a stabilization account, so they'll use that money first. And the next thing is to reduce or suspend the maximum 3% annual COLA. If that'll be the next step that they do. After that, then they'll shift some of the DC plan to the DB, the employer contribution, what you just said.
So there are some definitions in the plan that actually,
That-
in
that
place.
will trigger these.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it's
I
like
just
a
wanted-
180-page long
I assumed,
explanation for.
I assumed there was, and I just wanted that to be brought out.
Sonia, on your comment, I think the comment's been said that the pension is more secure than, say, the private markets. On page 2, there's been several instances where that blue line indicates that TCRS also took a risk and lost money.
Sure.
So it's the same market trend that the private markets would also have probably taken.
The ones, you're gonna have the same trends.
Right.
Because the economy is the economy. The difference is that in this, they have the financial analysts that I talked about that are experienced in investing money and making sure they're in the correct funds and stuff. They have something that our common everyday employee doesn't have an expertise in to do. Yes, they can pay somebody to manage, the employee can pay somebody to manage that for them. The trends are gonna be the trends, whatever the economy is, but it's all in how the money is invested.
Well, like on the plan for the defined contribution, if we were to go that route, for example, would it be like most companies with like the 401k, they have several plans that you can choose from?
It's however you set it up, yeah. you
So,
can do
so this
that.
could be set up that it would be a blend or a mix of conservative bond, funds, mutual funds, aggressive, so forth and so on. That it would limit the employee to pick one of those. So it could be a good record. It's like most people's mutual funds went up last year 20-30%, where TCR went up 10%. So it could be a,
To me, the difference between the defined benefit and defined contribution for this is what I take when she says it's better, safer. The employee does not have the risk of
The
the
pension.
investments.
Mhm.
Because, as I said, the actuarial study is done every 2 years. If investments are, they'll come to the county and say, your rate is going to increase because we need to put more money into the fund to pay these anticipated debts. That's the benefit, it's a defined benefit. It's almost like the employee comes in, county's taking care of it, I don't have to worry about it. I know I'm going to get 1.5% of my years of service times my high five. You can count on that. Where on the opposite defined contribution, the risk is not with the county. The county says, hey, we're matching, this is what we're matching, we're done. We're done, hands off, we're done. The employee has the risk of market fluctuations and the choices that they make.
Has there been a study done with the people that, the other local jurisdictions that have this defined contribution or hybrid or whatever to the recruitment of employees? Are the recruitment of employees the same, worse, or better that since they went to the
Well, I mean, I guess, we could just look in our own town, and how do you compare? You almost ask the individual who works, we'll talk about public safety, the gentleman who decides to go, or lady who decides to go for the police department in Smyrna is going to make more money than they are working for our sheriff's department. Job being very similar, they're gonna be paid higher. So, I don't know what the recruitment is. I guess, you say, well, who is your competitor? And it's gonna be them. Murfreesboro is gonna be the same thing. They've gone away from their defined benefit.
And here's the thing,
But
with
are
doing
we-
that,
They're paying more. They're all paying more.
right.
and that's something that we're gonna, if we go, we're gonna have to do the same
If you go that, then you'd
thing.
have to lift salaries.
You know.
You can't.
It's a double-edged sword here. It's not one-sided. Something's going to be done to the payroll in the future to offset the benefit package, in my opinion.
Not necessarily. It doesn't mean that the salary got to be adjusted with cost of benefits.
No, I'm saying that this person who's going to work, and he's got Rutherford County, and he's got Smyrna, and he is a new employee July 1.
So where do I wanna go work?
And so where am I gonna work? Well, here's the salaries. Well, it's defined contribution here, it's defined contribution here. Who pays the best? Right now, we'd say, well, Smyrna pays more, but we have a defined benefit plan.
We have a pension.
Yeah, but that's true, but Smyrna can only take so many employees.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
Eventually, you gotta get some overflow sometime. Yeah.
Right.
But the other thing is, Smyrna, if you're looking at the police department, you're looking at the sheriff's department, they can't get a job at Smyrna because it's full, so they come to the county sheriff's department, they get trained, they get experience in
Then
law
they go.
enforcement.
And then they go back.
Then they go to Smyrna, where are we? We lost out double there.
But Smyrna can only take so many.
Well, but you got Murfreesboro.
Well, there's
Murfreesboro
others
too.
that-
Murfreesboro
We
doesn't
went through
have-
that in the past on the training in Rutherford County, and they all were
But
leaving.
this right here will bring that same thing back again, what we went through years ago, as far as recruitment and retention.
Well, and that's one of the things that I understood, the reason that the commission went to the pension that we have was to help with some of that, and I could be wrong, but.
It helped to retain and recruit
Right.
employees instead of us being the training ground. Because at one time, the sheriff's department and the EMS was a training ground.
Yeah.
And they were here for a year or two and they were gone.
And you talk about, and you're right, Commissioner McAdoo, but one of the things that's concerning too is you look at, of course, this is for new hires.
Right.
And you gotta look at, we just had that example that as of today, over 200 of our 900 in population could retire today. So when we go to replace those 200, yes, there's only so many jobs they can go to, but that is something that, they would look at.
I got one more question on Plan
Okay.
4.
Okay.
Just say you die. Does the money, you do, does the money go back in the pot, or do your heirs? get
If
it?
you're vested, it goes to your beneficiary.
So your heirs will inherit that money? Is there any other option if that happens?
All the options that happens.
On the defined contribution?
And
All the
you'll
options
have-
up there, that happens, as long as you're vested.
So, and what we have now,
if you.
Your heirs will,
If you are, let's say somebody who's been here 10 years and they die. There's no, and they've
No,
not contributed
right.
anything, there is no, beneficiary doesn't get anything because they've not met the full retirement or even the early,
They have to retire first.
they have to have met,
Retirement eligibility requirements.
yes.
so so under the current plan, if you pass away prior to retiring, all the money goes back to the pot. If you pass
That's-
away after you retire, then your heirs will get
Your
what you're
beneficiary.
getting, or?
Well, and it's still based if you may, even with the active, if they meet,
If oh God, if I hit by a truck today, Mac would benefit.
I would.
But a year ago, or 2 years ago, if I got hit by a truck, he'd get nothing. Cause I would not, well, I
But he
lived
would,
to
he would
25
benefit
years.
off the life insurance.
5
He
years
wouldn't, he
ago.
wouldn't benefit off the retirement.
Not off the retirement.
It's separate. You've got to retire first to benefit from the
From the
retirement.
retirement.
right,
Yeah.
right. So that is a difference.
So
But
the
if you-
5-year vested then doesn't do anything
No,
for you?
you're
as
just
far as-
vested
yeah.
into it so that you could, we've had people who
We've had that happen to
Yeah.
been
somebody.
here 5 years and they've left county government. They've left government and went to the private sector and hit age 60
They can draw it
and they
then.
can draw it off those 5 years. They are vested into it.
Once they get to the 60 mark, as long as they get the 5 years, then they can start drawing.
We
Then
had
if, then if something happened, they're beneficiaries, but as the
Right.
way you stated, Commissioner Gage, yeah, they wouldn't.
So as far as our employees right now, it's not concerning them at all.
No.
We're getting out of the pension plan, basically, as far
Yes.
as our existing employees. Our new employees that come in,
If you-
we're looking at
if you
this.
make
If we make a change.
If you make a change.
If we make a change.
You cannot touch the ones who are already
Right.
under the plan.
Right.
They're already a full-time employee.
And they're not in jeopardy, neither by us going through
By
another
the
plan.
changes you make.
No.
No.
That's today, but if they can change the rule today, they can change it tomorrow.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
They
I
can
mean-
change it tomorrow. They can say your grandfathered in, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I've got 25 years in this system. And, you know, they can change it today, they can change it tomorrow. They may say your grandfathered in, you're good. 5 years later, they can come back and say, we've got to change it again.
Currently under ERISA, which is the Employment Retirement.
ERISA?
ERISA, yeah. It's set up to where pensions can't be touched, that is saved based on a promise for future benefits. But federal government can change those rules. They're the ones that make the federal laws, and they can change federal laws. They could change that, and he's correct. They could do that, and we, you know, at this point, this conversation would be moved, and we, you know.
But I would say too, this is not the first time. The state has other benchmarks, and if you
Right.
retired of this way, here, your rules are different than this other group. I know that there have been county employees whose retirement benefit was 75% of what the current wages paid for that job. So, I mean, that has been a change. Now, those people who retired from that, they're in that group. Then here's a new set, another plan. So, I mean, it's not that it hasn't happened, it hasn't gone back and undone a group on the pension. They've created a new group.
But what he said is it could, and it could.
Right, you know,
Yes, Jeff?
we could be hit by it.
When the state was first looking at some alternate plans, we have close to a property right in Tennessee, which is one of the reasons the legacy plan was not changed. One of the reasons why the people who are in it will stay in it unless they, make one of those rare changes, which
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I guess I look at it, if they, for what some of the gentlemen were saying, have no control what, I mean,
Yeah.
what is gonna happen in the next 10 years? I think making a change or not making a change is not gonna change the course of action that we have no control over.
Look what changes happened as far as our medical insurance. It won't change, look at that.
A look at rate of how much it costs.
You know, if you go to one of these plans that the county's putting less money in, somewhere down the line, there's gonna be less money in the program. And that's where we get back to what he's talking about, it's gonna affect the whole program. And there is legislation being pushed in Washington to change ERISA, so that they could be affected unless we do something about it. We sit here and do nothing about it, they'll do it, just like they did with the state, with this one. People didn't do anything about it. Now we have the soundest program, almost certainly the soundest investment program in the country. There's no really any need to do that. We have one of the top programs in the country overall. The investment, number one, the programs, and top 44 in the country. It's not like Detroit. It's not like Illinois. It's been run well by Republican and Democratic administrations both. They've been conservative.
Year over year.
It started conservative, it is conservative, conservative now, and will continue to be, I hope. So there's really no need for this change. I know we have 12.69, what we're putting in now, isn't that gonna be lower this time?
I got that on another slide.
It's going down because our investments are getting better.
Yeah, so it drops, that was what I was gonna say in 2014, and that's one of the things, this is not a one-time thing like, we gotta do this effective July 1, 2014, and we won't have another shot at it, that ship has sailed.
Right.
Anytime a change can be made for future employees, just not for existing. That's July 1, 2015, January 1, 2020, whatever. So it's not, this isn't, we gotta do this now, but this was requested, so.
But July 1, new certified staff will go to the hybrid plan, because it is gonna be something different.
For the Board of Education.
For
Right.
certified and teachers.
I mean, that's gonna happen.
But it didn't say anything about county general.
That is
That's y'all's
beyond y'all's,
That's y'all's decision.
yeah, thank you, decision.
So, what, is that why it was brought up here tonight, because of the law?
Well, it's brought up tonight because last year during the budget process, several of the commissioners mentioned when we were going over employee benefits and employee salaries that maybe the county had too rich of a benefit and they wanted to look at this. This is being brought because it was requested of me, and as my leadership group, I have complied with your request, and here we are.
Ms. Stevens, I know we've had a lot of good discussion, and I'm sure there's a whole lot more to be had, but let's continue to move through this information. And
Okay.
that way, tonight, any of the committee members here tonight can direct their questions to you and any more additional information they want before next month. If anybody else has any questions or thoughts or comments, they can direct those to Ms. Stevenson as well after the meeting, so we can get through this information and have an understanding of what you've got before us.
Okay. July 1, 2014, we've got our current option 1, which is what we're in today. If we change nothing, and this is where we would be today, our rate would go from the 12.68 to 11.97. We don't have a defined contribution. What this dollar amount that you see in the bold, what I did is I took all of the new hires for 2013, all the full-time new hires, because I had to have some group to use as my example. And I said, if we had done this last year, what would this have looked like? So I took the 2013 full-time new hires and I calculated their rate, and that's what the county would have spent for that population. Where it says annual monthly full-time benefit, that's what that employee, when they met the full retirement, either 60 with 5 years of service or 30 years of service on the plan, that's what they would draw. Their annual draw would be $14,779 a year or $1,232 a month. And again, that's pre-tax dollars. Option 2 is an option that we have available to us. They send it off to the actuarial. This is the alternate defined. Our rate would go to 5.8%. The employee would contribute 2.5%. And their monthly draw would be $1,095 a month. It would cost the employee $69 a month, and it would cost the county $16,000 a month in order to put that for that
Now,
same
is this
population.
with a 10-year?
No, yes. Option 1 is with 5-year vesting. Option 2 is with 10-year vesting. I left that off. I need to add that on there. Option 3 is the 2012 plan. If we went with that, the county total investment would be $29,000 a month. So you see it's just a few thousand, $4,000 less than what we're currently paying. But the employee's cost would go up to $138 a month in order to invest in that. The employee would draw a monthly benefit of $782, which you see from the plan we're on today to then it's, you know, roughly what, $450, something like that a month less. The DC part of the hybrid, there's no guarantee. There's no way for me to put a number in there. It could be a 0 or it could be $1 million. I don't know. You know, it's just based on how the funds do. Under the 2014 version, if the county went to that, the county contribution for the month would be $24,865. The employee contribution would be $124, and the employee would draw $782 on their defined benefit, and again, no guarantees on the DC. We went to a straight defined contribution, just using these examples. Yes, we could tweak it and make it our own plan, but if we went with the standard 6%, the county would pay $16,577. The employee would pay $164. They would have no guarantee on a defined benefit, so they wouldn't have a monthly check. And again, there's no guarantee on the DC. So again, it could be 0 or it could be $1 million. I don't know.
So what you're saying is from the defined contribution, totally the employee doing it on their own,
Correct.
to what we've got now, there's only a couple $100,000 a year difference.
That's in this select group of new
In
employees.
the new
13
employees, just the new
It's
employees.
like 100 employees or whatever. She just used that as an example.
I had to have some
For the new
pool.
employees.
If I said anybody hired January 1 to December 31st of 2013, they're full-time, they're in that group. I had to have some pool to use as an
Yeah.
example. So, and that group,
And that's 100 employees.
mhm. And so the annual salary for that group was $31,000. What they're making today, the annual is $31,279, or $476 a week. The analysis is based on full retirement of 30 years or 60 years of age in 5 years. And so, got that. Next slide. This is what the teachers, Board of Ed teachers and certified will be going to July 1, 2014. They don't get a vote. The state voted for them. So this is what they're going to, and it's the rate that I said before, the 1% multiplier, 65 rule of 90, 5% employee contribution. The state will do the 4% payroll contribution. They got 5 years vesting, and they let the cost of living of 3% in there. The defined contribution piece of it, the state will put in the 5% as long as the fund is good and everything's going well, but that could change, as mentioned by Mr. Bratcher. Auto enrollment of 2% paid by the employee, but the employee can opt out. And it's immediate vesting for that. Yes.
Just because of budget season coming upon us, our new rate for Board of Ed certified, July 1 is 9.04%. Those hired in the hybrid plan, it'll be 5% to the defined contribution, 4% to the defined benefits, so 0.04 of a percent difference budget-wise, so you're not gonna see a savings on teacher retirement.
That was one of the things that the graph showed. Yeah, they put all these things in place saying it's gonna save money, but when you look at the rate, the percentage the county's gonna contribute anyways, it's the same amount of money, and then the employee's contributing too, so it's not really saving us that much money and costing the employee more too. So anyways. So the Board of Ed sent a recommendation, the school board met, and they looked at all the options and said, if a change has to be made. They didn't say, we want you to make a change, but they said, if you really want to make a change and you've got to make a change, this is the option that we would choose. And that would be to stay on our current plan that we're on today, go to a 10-year vesting, and an employee contribution of 2.5%. That would leave in the 5% benefit improvement. It would leave in the same age 60 or 30 years of service after vesting. It would change all that, but the 10-year vesting would go to, the vesting would go to 10 years. And the employee contribution would go from 0% to 2.5. That was what they sent forward and said, if a change has to be made, this would be the best for our population base.
They didn't recommend a change, or they didn't recommend no change? They didn't say? Well, they wanted to change it or not?
Preference would be not to
No change, that's what I understood, no change. Would be preference,
That was the preference of the board?
that's what I understood. Am I correct, Jeff?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Their preference would be no change, but they said if the commission, because they realize that the commission is the one that's within their authority to make this change. But they said, if we could come to you and say what would be our preference would be no change. But if you've got to make a change, this is what we would like.
Okay.
Of all the options available, this is the one we like. Okay? This is another one that I looked at personally, just to say, again, if we have to make a change, this is one that will have an impact on us based on the rate that I gave you. These were the recommendations that came forward. There's our current legacy plan as it is today, with all the vesting, multipliers, contributions, what the Board of Ed has recommended, and another option that's out there that has a cost savings as well. And even on the proposed with the changes that are available to us, there's still early retirement options available. That was just too much information. This is enough, this is too much information, all by itself without all the other. The cost of each option, if any of those three, if we stay where we're at today, the cost of the option for that same group that I just mentioned, 100 new hires, if we did nothing, they're gonna go into our current pool. The cost would be $33,071 a month under our current plan. If we went with the proposed Board of Ed plan, it would be $33,071 because the savings wouldn't be noticed until 2 years when they did the next actuarial study. And the alternate defined benefit would be the $16,024 because the rate structure would change. The employee would have seen some of that and we would. So those are the cost. If you're looking at the number and it shows what the employee would draw, $1,232 on the current, $1,232 under the proposed Board of Ed, and the $1,095 under the defined. Okay. So if you this is a lot to take in, and I know it, and I've tried to listen to what everybody said. I'm not recommending necessarily that there is a change, but if you want a change, these are some options that are available. I will try to calculate, if you say, what would this look like? I'll try my best to calculate that for you.
I think we are saying that we're not suggesting that we have a hybrid plan.
That would be my preference, no. I would not I personally could not recommend with good conscience, but that's just me. Now, should something change, I will go back and say that. Lisa and I were talking about this. Should what Mr. Bratcher says is going on in Congress right now, and they say we could tap into those funds and use those for other events that happen throughout the state, and that money could do whatever. With new information, I might change, because I might say, well, if they're going to take it anyways, we might as well have it, and defined contribution, and the employee manage it, and if it's gone, at least they're not mad at the state and the employer for doing it. But the way it is today, I want to make sure that our employees, after working for this county and being dedicated, that they have something that they can count on at the end of the day. And as I would not be a good HR person, I try to be balanced in my beliefs as far as what's best for the county and the taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer too. And what's best for the employees, and I couldn't with good conscience say that I would want to change something that would leave them with no benefit at the end of the day to provide for their years when they're supposed to be enjoying life and going to Longhorn or, you know, Nukes or wherever it is that they go to enjoy life and not have it, much less to even pay their bills. So that would not be mine, but
Well, I
somebody
think
else.
that's what the county's been saying for a long time. And we're not really saying we're gonna do that now. We just, you know, this is something to look at, and what's helped me out from some employees that's called me, this is for new hires.
Right.
New hires, totally. So that helps all of us that are employees, or all of y'all that are employees now, breathe a little easier. But then, okay, what are we looking at to the future, and what's the best for us as taxpayers and our new employees too that are coming on down in the future, so.
And the difference with the new hire, and I will say that at that time when they accept a position, if we try to send out offer letters, if I know enough in advance or what, you know.
Right.
We try to send, and it's laid out in that offer letter that they sign and agree to. So they are aware of what benefits they have available, and if they choose to accept the job at that point, knowing this is what it is, I can sleep better at night knowing that. The one thing is a lot of the people that come in their early years don't know that planning for your future retirement is important. So again, that's part of my responsibility to educate them, you know, to say, hey, this only pays this piece. That's why we have Nationwide over here. If you can do $10 a month, it's better than no dollars a month, you know, to help offset that. So I take that very seriously. We have Nationwide here every quarter harassing all of our departments. Can they please come and sit up and talk to your employees? Because I want to make sure that they understand that they're educated about their financial future when they should be able to enjoy life and, you know, for all their hard work.
Well, Rutherford County as a whole is doing something right if we're gonna double by 2025.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so, industry's coming.
It's 45, that's what judicial building guy said.
Commissioner Farley.
45.
Commissioner Gooch.
Sonia, just one question for clarification. On this page here, these monthly and annual benefits is based upon these assumptions down here, which are 30 years of service, 30 years working with the company, and your average 60 months is 31,000.
It's based on 30 years of service or age 60, depending on which one it is. And I have to go back. 'cause
Well, like ours, like the.
The one that we're in right
Legacy,
now,
the
the
legacy.
legacy we're in now, it's based on somebody being 60 with 5 years of service or 30 years of service, because that's full retirement at that point.
So if you're,
Wait a minute, I think he's saying
yeah,
the numbers that you put at the bottom in the example
like for
is
example.
not somebody who just worked for us for 5 years.
It's the full retirement amount.
So to get 1,200, in this case right here where it's $1,232 a month, that's based upon your 60 months average,
Correct?
31,000, and for 30 years.
And they worked the 30 years to get
It's
that.
their average final compensation, the 60
Right.
months, times their multiplier, that 1.5, times the 30 years.
30 years.
That's what you get.
That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, based, and just like Commissioner Sanders was saying, talking about the future, based off of what I see for the future for retention and recruitment of new employees, that I think this plan, by changing this plan, would be a detriment to that. And with that being said, I'm gonna make a motion that we stay the course and not make any changes to the retirement plan.
We have a motion.
She wanted a decision tonight.
She didn't ask one, I just.
We have a motion on the
That's fine.
floor. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I like to hear from employees.
I like to study a little more than 2 hours.
Do we have a
before I-
second? We need a second before we have any other discussion.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and second it, because I feel the same way. It just, I thought this was really a preparation for, budget time frame and looking, you know, but, I feel pretty strongly about that.
Okay, discussion. Commissioner McAdoo?
I may feel strong about it, but I don't like something thrown on me at 5:30 of this magnitude, and then you expect me to have a definite vote by 7 o'clock. That's what I'm looking at. That's number one. Number two is, you know, I beg to differ some of the qualifications and everything on these employees, because 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, the market in this area may not have been as great for educated people as it is now. You got a plan coming from the state, which is the governor plan on sending 2 years of junior college free. So I got other things to study than to try to make a decision in 2 hours.
The job market out there in 2 years or more, with those things happening, is we're gonna be looking for, employees, and it's gonna hurt the recruitment and retention. The people that are gonna be coming to us are not coming to us, are gonna be going out here getting the better jobs that's got the better benefits and the better pay. If we don't do something, to me, it's a double-edged sword here. If we don't do something about the pay, if we do something about changing this, we're going to lose employees by recruiting employees, the caliber of employees we got now, in my opinion.
Not if we improve the plan.
That's right.
And I'd like a month to at least look this over. I'm not really, I would say a month from now, I may well agree with you and vote for that motion, okay? But I'd like a month to at least look it over. I can say this, when we heard Sheriff Jones and since then Sheriff Arnold complain about losing these employees. We've heard Mike Nunley complain, or we heard it when I was on public safety for
Right.
2 years. And we lose other employees as well that come in here, work, get some experience, and they're out the door. If we could improve the plan, you know, I'd like to at least have an opportunity to look at it a little longer than this also. And I'm worried about what you said, sir, and I don't know you, but I guarantee you 4 years ago, there is not a school teacher in this county that was ever worried about their pension 4 years ago. Today, that has changed horribly, including the ones that are already retired like myself. With the state legislature, the damage they've done to education, I'll just throw that out there. But I'm talking about the pension, that's what we're talking about here. And it's something that needs to be looked at.
Well,
And you're right, they can change it today, they can change it next week or next month.
Commissioner, I agree with you to a certain degree, but you look at the private workplace right now, you don't know from 1 year to the next what you've got. And that's something that we have said as county commissioners across the board for a number of years. We went to bat in there, in that room right in there, at tax time. Hey, we're not raising taxes because we're not giving raises, and we're not doing this, and we're not doing this. But you got this benefit package here. And we hope and we pray that this right here will be good enough for you to stay here. And we want you to. But that's all we had. That's all we had.
That's all we had years ago.
And so I want to put some hearts to ease in another tough budget year. That, okay, this is off the table for me, but, you know, I understand what you're saying. I mean, but I'm already there.
Well, is there damage done if we come back and vote for this very motion in 30 days? Not even that long. April 7th? Make the same motion on
I
April
don't
7th?
think so. I don't think so. I just,
Why don't we wait a month
I
and
guess
look
we're
it
ready.
over?
Well, we're ready to call for the question, yea and nay. But the urgency of this, I just don't see.
I understand. I do.
Well, what I would like to see, if we come back in a month or several months, I think the commissioners down there are right, there's no urgency right now because no one's asking for a vote in the administration. But what I would like to see is you take these assumptions over 30 years, it put this money that was contributed from the employees and the employer into conservative stock and bond fund. I would like to know how much that would have been over the last 30 years.
Based on the past 30-year trends?
Any 30-year trend, but preferably the last 30-year trend.
It's gonna be the same thing with it.
Well, no,
No.
no, not necessarily, because it depends on how they're invested. I mean,
I'm not talking about junk bonds. I'm talking about
right, right.
I'm talking about a moderate, say you take a conservative stock and
Yeah,
bond fund.
you could have some
a
growth, some
moderate-
income
yeah,
level.
A moderate
conservative.
stock income, and maybe some more aggressive, maybe blend it together and see what 30 years of investing would give a person. And I think you'd be surprised. I think it's gonna be a lot more for everybody.
But if the economy takes a dip the same way it does in the same time, wouldn't it be the same negative effect?
It would, because on those plans, the employee does assume the risk, just like with your current investment. So, I mean,
So-
with this other, with the defined benefit, we have already agreed that they will receive this much income, okay? So, when they're planning for their future, they say, this is how much I'm gonna draw from this. With the defined contribution, it could be, and it could be like that, it could be, they might draw $2,000 a month as opposed to $1,200 a month. Could. Or it could be $200 a month, I mean, based on how it goes, you know. So, I'll do what I can to see if I can put that together with the same analysis in that defined,
Yeah.
contribution.
Diversified type.
Claim, yeah, I'll work on that for you. There was something I forgot, can I speak?
Yeah.
I'm out. Okay. I got to thinking y'all were in the middle of voting or something. One of the things that, and I forgot, and I promised him I'd do it, and I'm gonna keep my promise. Sheriff Arnold came to me about the same time when we were talking about all this, and he had been asking us to research, and we had researched, and there was also some employees at the sheriff's office that researched along with me. He will be bringing forth, and I'll just give you a heads up so that you'll know what he's talking about, some information about supplemental benefits for public safety officers. He's gonna be making a request for that. And what that is, which changes this, but it's in line with what you're talking about right now, this would impact police officers, anybody who's on patrol, a detective out in the field, and firefighters, paid firefighters. It would require mandatory retirement on the first day of the month following age 60. There's a cost to the county associated with that. It's a 0.75% additional 3.5% of payroll. So for the same group that we just looked at, it would cost the county an extra $317,000 to offer that benefit for supplemental police protection. He's gonna be bringing that,
It's like
tying
another
that in.
plan. It's another plan.
It's in
for a
addition to the
specific
plan that we
group.
have, yeah. And it would not be though for new hires. That would be, they can go back and pick that up for existing population.
Is that like a rider? Is that like a rider, or is that a completely separate plan?
Well, it would be in addition to, it's a bridge. It's a bridge to get them from 60 to the full retirement. It's a bridge, and it, of course, it's gonna have an extra expense to it, so.
Would it not include?
Hang on, I'm sorry. Before we get in discussion about that, I thought, because that's different from our motion on the table. We have, I don't think that this topic, we can discuss this, but we have a motion in a second.
Call for the question.
Call for the question. All's in favor of the motion to, what was the motion exactly? To
Stay the course
stay the
with no
course.
change to the retirement plans.
All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands, why don't we do that? 3. All those opposed, say no. No. Got 4. Motion fails. Discussion on the topic at hand now.
That was really just for information purposes, just so that you would be aware.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry.
Any other discussion on, again, this
What's the plan now?
pension plan?
I think if the four votes, what's the solution? I mean,
I just wanna hear from the employees, and I'll probably be right with you next
Yeah.
month. but I
Yeah, we
just-
want
I
more
didn't-
information.
I'd say I would be too right now.
I'm not saying what y'all.
Right.
wanna do.
I mean, I'm just asking,
More
what,
information.
And you might be, I know you, being the chairman of public safety, you know these, they probably in contact with you a little bit more,
Right.
but, I hadn't heard, and
Is there anything you would like from me to ask the employees? How would you, are you gonna reach out to them, or?
Oh, I'll have some questions, and I'll
Can-
probably
Okay.
call you, and I definitely will call Lisa
Can-
on the finance end, which I do all the time, but I don't have enough time in 2.5 hours to look at a plan of this magnitude. I don't.
And there's some unknowns. Or, we don't know without looking at other assumptions how much it could be. I think the employees need to know that before they start making comments.
Can,
And that's true too.
can we have by next month, and I hate to put more work on it, because I know you do quite a bit. Can we have a survey of the employees and see what their thoughts are?
Actually, that's a good idea.
but it's
That's a
not gonna
good
affect
idea.
them.
It's not gonna, it's not gonna affect
It's
the
not gonna.
existing, it's only for new hires.
I'm just saying that there won't have.
Well, it would be interesting, to interject,
Gotta get
for
the man out on
anybody
the
who was
street.
hired in year 2013, it would be interesting to find out what,
They would like.
did that make a difference?
Difference.
Right.
What did it make a difference in choosing to come to Rutherford County? Did that even play into it?
And I could get, I could ask if MTSU in their business department could do a survey with their business students, if that would make
What
a
is
difference, I don't know.
this question is for you, Lisa, because being the finance director, you would know this. What is the percentages of what the salaries are of the benefit plan package that we offer versus what the pay is for an employee? And what would the percentages be for this new plan with what we're being paid now?
27%, we already calculated that.
27%. What percentage would it be for this new plan if we were to pay the same pay we're paying now?
Yeah, what we did, we used the average salary. I mean, cause we went back to figure out what their income tax would be.
I would bet money that that percentage on the new plan would be less than 27%. So the retention and recruitment are gonna take a hit in the long run.
Do we have, one of the things I was curious about also was the net pension liability and how that changes under each of these two plans for future reasons. If our net pension liability is going down and we're able to do some different things financially, does that help our ability to do better pay and be more, and stay competitive?
Well, when you talk about what our net pension liability is how much are we having to fund to meet those requirements? I mean, just think about, it's 12,690 and it went down to 11,997. So, yeah. Is your question, what is our pension liability, our unfunded liability?
My question is, with the change in the plans, what will happen to our net pension liability? In other words, the improvement that will happen, because it'll be improved
It will be
if we're not.
improved, but you still have everybody who is employed
Right.
today, who
Right.
is in that assumption that they
Right.
will retire.
Right.
Until they retire, until that one retires and a new comes on, you're not.
Well, I mean, I
We're not gonna
understand.
see, you're not gonna see.
This change
a
won't
benefit.
affect
A
anything
big
today, but I'm
benefit, no.
thinking 20, 30 years from now. Because I mean, that's really what we're planning for.
But for every new 100 employees, you're looking at a difference of between paying 11.9% to the 5.8.
5.8.
So that difference you could be using for making more competitive staff compensation. I think that's what I hear him saying.
Whatever they want is.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to make up the difference somewhere, because if you go to different plans, you're gonna be more competitive in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this or any other direction for, I know everybody, or I think at least the four of us, want to spend a little bit more time digesting this, if nothing else. But I guess if there's any other direction for Ms. Stevenson or Ms. Nolan, you can contact them.
Call them on a
And I
daily
know,
basis.
I know it was a lot to take in and tried to include what I thought would be important to you. But those are good examples, I mean, it's something I didn't think about doing, so
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
a good
absolutely.
information.
So you'll put these in the other commissioners' boxes.
What do y'all think? Do y'all think I
I
should do
think
that
you
first?
should. Yeah.
Go ahead and do
Sure.
that now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring them on.
Well, I didn't know if I should wait until I got the changes that they
Well, they may
requested.
have some good points they
What's
wanna
it?
call you up on.
Okay.
Any other business? Seeing none, move to adjourn.